What's up,
What's
everybody?
you?
Welcome back to another episode of Out of Our League. Bill, shut up. I'm doing the intro. My name is Gage. I'll be your co-host today. Joining me over next to me, we have Philip J. Woodward. Down below, we have the first person without a camera. Bennett, please be excited.
What's up?
In the bottom right-hand corner, second person without a camera, but the special guest for today's show. You probably know him as Connor from the Assassin's Creed franchise. You might know him from his roles in TV shows such as Skinwalkers and that biker show that I'm just now, Sons of Anarchy. I've seen the show and I just totally blanked the name of it.
I was like, look behind you. Look at the thing behind you.
I got, like,
look at Days Gone. Now remember what it was inspired by.
Yeah, exactly. Noah Watts. What is up, Noah?
I just want to say, Noah, you're pretty good.
Thank you.
God, it's so good. So, I know we've got a few community questions today. I just had them up, and then I just closed Twitter. So let me bring it back up. I want to see how many we have, so I kind of know.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-ish.
6-ish?
You
Well-
like what's that guy's name? The count. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 questions.
Technically, we don't, because Kumail wrote in with 2 tweets, and each one has multiple questions. So
That's true.
We've got
That's true.
quite a few. But I want to start off by just asking Noah, like, I already covered people were going to know you from things like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. But I know you do more than just acting. So you're an actor, you're a musician, you're a Twitch streamer, all these things. Walk us through some of that stuff that people either might know you from or you would like more people to know about.
Well, I've been doing a lot of music recently, and I'm kind of concentrating on that. I've done a couple albums, and right now I'm working with a group of native musicians, and we're about to do a show for a community event in Wyoming. And I think also as well, I do streaming and I game as I'm kind of a nerdy gamer. Quietly in my private life. So yeah, I know. I mean, I know I do the voice acting and the film and TV acting, but some of my real hobbies are gaming and music, and I'd like to get a little bit more attention on that if I could. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Yes, but that's it. I hope that was it. It's adequate.
That's good.
If you want to give us a link to the music, we'll put it in the description of the video. That'd be
Okay. It's the Facebook Nickels and Bones. Nickels
Okay.
and Bones. Just spell it out at Nickels and
Cool.
Bones.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and track that down.
There'll be a SoundCloud link on that Facebook page, so you can get to all of the stuff I have on SoundCloud, and also my second album is up on iTunes and all the streaming music platforms there are. So you can just search the name Nickels and Bones, and something should come up. I'm paying for it.
Yeah, I would hope it would come up.
It definitely came up. It came up really easily.
Perfect. So, I kind of want to piggyback off of that. I personally, I was a big fan of Assassin's Creed 3. I love how we were just like, hey, focus on other stuff, but I'm going to do Assassin's Creed 3.
To be fair, we might as well get the Assassin's Creed 3 stuff out of the way early so we can get to other stuff, because a lot of the community questions are about Assassin's Creed 3.
And I definitely do want to talk more about music and stuff, but there's a lot of Assassin's Creed 3 stuff. So
I'm cool with that. So the Twitch is the Noah Watts. So if you want to put that in there too, it's twitch.tv/the Noah Watts.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
So this question comes from, let's see. Hold on. There it is. I don't know how to say it. At Moon Eyes Jimin? I don't know. Anyway, she asks, would Connor be open to the idea of love with everything he's been through? He's lost a lot of people that were close to him at such a young age. I want to know if he, presumably past Assassin's Creed 3. We've actually had 2 questions that are about this. Do you think Connor would have ever been able to, I guess, move on from that stuff?
That's an interesting one. I think I definitely think yes that he could have a family and you know a wife and do that. But originally, when I was working on the game, I kind of wanted him to die at the end of it to make him I don't know more of a martyr, I guess. But then I noticed that a lot of the fans wanted to see him find happiness because the story of Connor Kenway is such it's very tragic. I mean, from the very beginning, the death of his mother at a very young age while he watches, and his father is a Templar and kind of no good SOB. So it's hard to, be a very happy kind of person when that's the first few things that happen to you while you're growing up. And that's the way I approached that role. I looked at it, and it reminds me a lot of Batman's story. I mean, young kid, parents are killed in front of his eyes, and he becomes a vigilante, which is not very far off from what Connor is doing. Only difference is he's getting pulled and pushed and manipulated in several directions by a lot of these um, European rich white dudes. So I think it's really hard for him to um, find anybody around in that circle that he can relate to. Find a woman, find anybody like that. So I think if after the story is done in AC3, there's definitely a possibility for that, but he'd have to remove himself from where he is and go, and I would like to see him go with his people, go back to his people, and um, try to find something there, and I think that would be the ideal happiest ending for him.
Answer. I like that one. Um, Kind of piggybacking off of that, still kind of on the Assassin's Creed topic. I know it's something that's kind of bounced around on some of our previous shows about Native American heritage, things like that being more front and center. So I'm just curious, kind of what that experience was uh, like when you first went into the audition for that role. Uh, I'm assuming it was probably a different title, different character, stuff like that for you know uh, confidentiality and NDAs and stuff. But did you know from the get go that you were going to be cast as a lead, more specifically a Native American lead in such a big franchise?
No, it was odd the way they approached it. It was called American Revolution or something like that, and I got the sides that I was supposed to learn, and there were these huge monologues. Like I think it was one of the monologues where when you first become the Connor part of the story, and he's going on, for all my progress, this and that, and I was like, man, these are really long monologues, and he's talking about. It sounds like Templars. Like I'd already played Assassin's Creed, and so I knew the storylines, like, and back of my mind, I was like, this sounds like an Assassin's Creed movie. Why are they calling it American Revolution? This something isn't right. I knew something wasn't quite right with what they were sending me. And so I went to I didn't really I didn't really memorize it. I'm like, this is really long. I've got short hair. I play, I usually play contemporary characters, contemporary natives, or I think I just got off CSI Miami. I was playing, I think he was Puerto Rican or something. So I don't really play period pieces. I kind of tended to stay away from that genre. I wanted to be part of movies that show Native Americans here today and now and what our struggles are now, instead of the old romantic Hollywood thing of showing natives on the prairie with long hair and being that stoic, picturesque thing that a lot of Hollywood wants to remember natives as or highlight them as. So I thought to myself, I don't got long hair. I don't look stereotypically native enough for this role. I'm probably not going to get it. I'm not going to waste my time and memorize all of this right now. So I get in there and I got about half of it memorized, and I'm looking at the paper and I'm reading it. And after I was done, I looked around the casting directors, all these really great movies in there, Ronin, like stuff with Robert De Niro. And I was like, damn, I should have memorized this. Because if not, if to show this casting director what I'm capable of, even if I wasn't going to get cast in it, it's always good to just give it your all, because they may see you and go, you know what, he's not right for this, but he could be good for this. Well, at least I did something good enough, because the casting director called and said, yeah, you need to, you got it. You know what you're doing. You just got to come back in about a couple days. The producers are going to be here, and just get everything memorized. I really think they're going to like you. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to go home and memorize all this. So I did. They called me back, and then I read it, and then they called me back again, and I had to come back again. I think I came back like 5 times. And I finally ended up reading for one of the writers. And I got in there and I was really getting into it, and I look over at him and he's like writing something down and not even watching. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't have this. It's over. He's not even listening to me. and then I got a call, and they said that they wanted to offer it to me. And then I went and talked to that writer. I was like, how come you weren't listening to me when I was auditioning? He's like, dude, I didn't want to throw you off. You're doing so good. Okay. My intuition is terrible. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I have a question. Like, so one of the biggest things that I have noticed, through my time playing video games, is representation really matters. And Connor was like a huge thing for me, because, he was like the first character that I saw who was followed up shortly after by Second Son, infamous Second Son, where I really just like connected and got to play as a Native American character in a video game. Have you had like a lot of people come up to you and like, talk about that and how they felt as far as feeling like they were represented in a video game?
Yes, I think that I've heard natives say that to me, that it was respectful of the culture that was being portrayed in there, and that it really was one of the first times that there was a native character that was portrayed more accurately, instead of generalizing, natives. So it really was also something that made me enjoy working on the game, and respect it, because they were using the culture, they're using the language, and they were using songs, and the way that the culture is built, or at that time. Um, I'd much rather be a part of something like that than a game where, I don't know if you guys have seen this game. It came out a couple years ago. It's just, you play a warrior and you just kind of kill white people, I guess, or you kill um like cowboys and stuff. It's kind of like a Red Dead kind of knockoff. And there's no specific tribe. It's just, it's modeled after Plains Indians, but the language is, I mean, as far as I know, there's no real language in there. There's no tribe that's identified, and it's just very vague, and things like that. That promotes. That's not the way to do it. If you're gonna use Native Americans in any of your stories, then you gotta choose a tribe. You gotta talk to the people in that tribe, and you have to get their permission. And more than likely, they'll want to be involved if their voices are heard, and if they're part of the creative process. That's the best way to do it, because otherwise, it's just it's kind of perpetuating stereotypes that are just not true. So I was very, very happy with the respect that Ubisoft put into AC3 that no other game had done.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely meant a lot to me. That actually, Assassin's Creed 3 means a lot of weird things to me, because just before the game came out, my PlayStation 3 died, and I was super excited, that Assassin's Creed 3 and some other stuff was coming out. And Sony was having a contest for Assassin's Creed 3 to win a PlayStation 3. So I actually submitted an art piece of Assassin's Creed 3, of Connor and stuff, and ended up winning a PlayStation 3 Assassin's Creed bundle.
Man, there you go.
So like, yeah, there's like a lot of cool stuff attached to that game for me. Not just, the native representation, but also the winning, the console and having it be the Assassin's Creed 3 PlayStation and everything. It was just kind of a really cool thing. And then, yeah, I mean, like you said, it was, other people have said, like, it was the first time that I felt like native culture had been represented in a way that I had never seen before. And it was just really nice to see something like that.
Yeah, I learned about Mohawk culture just by doing that. I really didn't know anything about that tribe at all, and I mean, I learned a lot about it, those type of natives. So I think all in all, Ubisoft does a great job with that, paying attention to details and getting things accurate in their Assassin's Creed games. So going into it, I knew, I was like, man, they're really going to do a good job with this. I just got to do a good job. So it was fun. Great.
That's awesome. Which one of you guys wants to go over another community question, since I already asked one?
We haven't
I've
heard
got
from
one here.
Ben yet. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say kick it over.
Here we go. So community question. This one comes from Kamal H, who's actually part of our Simply Sassy group here. Just couldn't make it today, but he sends his best wishes. So the question is it always weird hearing... Oh, sorry. He says, it's always weird hearing my voice after recording a podcast. Noah, do you have the same thing hearing yourself in a video game? So do you find it kind of a weird experience going back and listening to a video game and sort of realizing, oh, that's me?
or watching yourself in a movie, for that matter.
Yeah.
I don't like watching myself in a movie. I can handle listening to my voice on a video game, but watching myself on a movie, I get to I guess I pick myself apart. I get real I don't know what's the word, is critical, hypercritical of myself. Yeah, and it happened to me just recently. I had a film premiere at the LA Skins Fest in the Man's Chinese Theater in Hollywood before the pandemic, and I'm sitting in the audience, and there's like all guests around me, and I'm watching myself up there, and I'm like, oh god, I just don't want to watch this. I've already done it. I've acted in it. I know what's gonna happen. And I just kind of wanted to get up and walk out, but I knew I couldn't do it. So I just sat there and kind of looked at the floor. But on the video game, it didn't really bother me at all. I have also been recording vocals and recording myself for a while. So I guess at first, when I first started getting into stuff, recording and stuff, it was a little weird, but now it's just normal. It's just part of it,
Mm-hmm. I guess on that sort of same question is, do you sort of prefer the film and TV side of things, or do you prefer the video game side of things? Is sort of a preference, or are they just so different? It's quite nice to actually bounce between the two.
They are different. I think theater is the most gratifying one. It's the one that gives you instant gratification. And it's where I started. I started in theater. And I think fifth grade was my first play. And there's something really special about working on a play for 6 weeks and then building up to opening night, and then everybody's out there. You can hear the buzz of the audience, and you get out on stage, and you can hear the audience is silent. So you can hear a pin drop out there because they're hanging on your words, and they're interested in the play. And afterwards people come up to you and tell you, you know, how well you did, how much, you know, you were into it, how much it inspired them, et cetera, et cetera. Um, that's just instantly right there. And you can feel a connection with the audience while you're up there on stage. You can feel their energy and you feed off that. In film, it's not the same. You walk onto a set, there's cameras everywhere. If you mess up, you know, back to one, start it again. All right, action. You know, it's like walking on a tightrope, but the tightrope's on the ground. And, you know, in theater, it's like walking on a tightrope, but there's no net, and it's like 100 feet above the floor. If you fall, you're screwed. Forget your lines. If you mess up, you know, all these people are out there paying money for it. In film, there's none of that. You know, it's just, you know, a little bit more easy to do. I will say you have to be more subtle on camera because the camera picks up more things like your expressions and stuff. You have to be bigger on stage. But I like working on stage better. And then when I transitioned into games, I was doing voice. I did voice on Red Dead 1. I loved it. I loved just sitting in the vocal booth and doing all these different types of screams for, you know, how I'm being murdered in the game. Like, okay, this is you getting set on fire. All right, this is you falling off a cliff. All right, now you got shot with an arrow. So you have to have subtle different screams for each one of these. And I was having a blast with that. But then AC3 came along and they got me in this mocap suit with a helmet cam on, and I just I didn't like that. It's very difficult to create a character and believe that you are the character when you're wearing this wetsuit with all these little glowing balls all over your body and Velcro and some camera. And you can't really, it's very difficult to get into it. You kind of have to really use your imagination. And for a film or a theater, you have the costume, you have all of your props, you have, when I build characters, it's about how the guy moves, how he walks, what kind of shoes he's got on, what has he got in his pockets, you know, all of the history behind him, what are her parents' name, what's your mom's maiden name, what's your favorite food, what's your favorite color. You make all these things up to create this complete individual character. And it's just difficult to do that with a helmet cam and a bodysuit on. So I didn't really enjoy working in a mocap situation. I liked it for the experience. Another thing that's weird on video game sets, or at least when I was working on that AC3, is they move from scene to scene very quickly. They wanted me to do, like, I don't know, 30 pages in one day, and usually you get about 10 pages on a film set. So they didn't really know. I was like, we can't get through all this today. So, I mean, these are a lot of scenes. You have to show some importance on each scene. Otherwise, we're just running through this and, you know, we're not really getting to the meat of all of these scenes. So they cut it back and tailored it more to that style, and realized that when you're working with actors on a set, you guys got to create a mood and you got to create a feeling, and a moment has to happen for it to be really good. Otherwise, it's just, you know, doing your lines. So I guess I enjoy theater the most, to bring it back down to the question. Theater is my favorite thing to do, and it's also the most difficult for me.
That's super fascinating. So when they're throwing these things at you, like, no, you're on fire, no, you've just jammed your finger in the door, like, what's the weirdest request that they've had? The weirdest line that you've had to deliver?
Man, no, it's the grunts. That was the like, you know, all of those. That was the most awkward kind of thing that I did.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
I always think about, like, while watching something that's animated or something, like the character is like running, they're out of breath, and then all of a sudden they get slammed into a wall, and all of these things have to sound like they're actually happening. Otherwise, it just falls flat, right? So
Yeah.
I just can imagine that there's somebody jumping around in a sound booth who's just like like actually tiring themselves out and, you know, running to try and get that realistic feeling.
That reminds me of, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. Dustin Hoffman plays this runner, right? And they're getting ready to do a scene where Dustin Hoffman's been running, and he starts running. This is from a quote from Dustin. He said, "I started running back and forth to get tired out. You know, it's because I had to be running. I had to be sweaty and running." And Laurence Olivier turns to him and goes, "What are you doing?" Dustin goes, I got to run. You know, I got to be all out of breath. And Laurence Olivier looks at him and goes, "My dear boy, it's called acting."
So good. I love that.
You don't need to do any of that.
Especially if you're doing 20 takes, you know? You'll be exhausted by the 20th, you know?
Maybe the 20th is the best one because of that, though, you know?
Could be.
You know?
Just like passed out on the ground.
I see, but I'm guilty. I did it too. Like, I had a movie where I was supposed to be running and out of breath, and I started running up and down like Dustin Hoffman. I was like, I'm gonna be like Dustin Hoffman, you know, a real method guy. Well, the other actors were looking at me like, what is he doing? Trying to make this real, man. Come on.
That's awesome.
It's commitment, you know?
And I mean, I think everyone has their own style too, you know, because you're right. I imagine that there's the guy that does run in the booth trying to get himself out of breath so he sounds more realistic. But then there's probably Troy Baker who can just make himself sound like he's out of breath immediately.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And that's something I learned in acting conservatory from one of the acting coaches I had. Is very early, she said, your secrets are your magic. Whatever you need to do to get to the place that is called for in the script, that's it. Do that. You don't need to do what someone else tells you to do. You don't need to, whatever it is that you need to do, you do, and ignore everything else. If you get there and they believe it, that's what you do. So everybody, like you said, everybody has their own way of achieving and creating their art.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic advice for people that want to get into acting. That's always such a weird question that, not necessarily weird, but I guess strangely a personal question that people always ask is like, how do you do it? What's your method? Like, I want to know, how do I copy what you're doing rather than actually, you know, trying to get yourself in that position and find the ways that you need to, you know, the thoughts that you need or the whatever it is to get you in that role. It's very
personal. It's up to you as an individual, and you can't, I mean, you can borrow from what other people do. And that's kind of what I did starting out listening to acting coaches is, they tell you to do something, it's not working for you, then you got to find another way to get there. You know, if you're supposed to be emotional and crying in the end of this scene and you're not doing it, you need to figure out how to get there. And whatever you need to do, you don't need to tell anybody. You just need to go and figure it out and do it. That's, you know, and other people don't have to do that. Other people don't need to know all the information about the character they're playing. They don't need to know his favorite food or his favorite color. I just like to do that because it was what I was taught at a young age to create a complete character, to know everything about them. That it would be the same if I was to ask you what your favorite color is. You would be able to rattle it off right away. Or what's your mom's name? Or where were you born? All those questions everybody knows. Why shouldn't the character know it too? So not everybody needs to do it that way. You know, they're brilliant performances without doing all that crap. That's what I need to do. That's my secret. You know,
good one to have. I like that one. What other questions do you want to ask from Kamel, Ben? Because I was gonna do it, but honestly,
He
I've
sent
already
a few.
forgot which ones. Yeah, there's a lot from Kamel, so I don't want to.
We can break it up a little bit. Let's get another one of the Assassin's Creed 3 questions in here for somebody.
Which one? There's so many.
We'll do Lydia. Bard, I see Lydia. Bardic, duh. What was your favorite moment from your time with / as Connor? Do you have any thoughts for fans who weren't as impressed with Connor as they were with more charismatic protagonists in Assassin's Creed history? I actually don't feel that way at all. But
Thought Connor was plenty charismatic. Just
Well, let's see. Favorite moments from that. I think the scenes with Adrian and Hatham, those are really great. I had a great time working with him, and just and the original game director, cinematic director Dave. He was a really cool guy to work with, and made me feel comfortable in there, and kind of the person I would go to when I got in there, because there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen when you went to the work on that game. I mean, there's a lot of different people, as there are in most every film or theater project. There's a lot of different people trying to put their 2 cents on how it should be and whatnot. So I think my scenes with Hatham were my favorite to do. And what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
it says, do you have
the
any?
charismatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, I guess what I went into the audition with it that way, doing it that way. So they picked me for a reason. That's why they picked me. They wanted that. If they wanted the charismatic guy, then would have picked that guy. So I gave them what I had to give to the role, and then it just got fleshed out when I finally figured out exactly what this whole thing was about. Because the first audition, I didn't even know what all of this story was about. And once I get all that more information, then I can actually start creating a character. And that's one of the problems with auditions these days, is they give you a few pages, and it's been going on a long time. Give you a few pages, but they don't give you the whole script. They can't tell you anything about the story. So you got to make up a bunch of crap that, might not even be right. And you just kind of have to guess on things. So once I got the information and I realized that Connor's mom gets burned alive, like, I mean, how is this guy going to come out being real, real jovial or whatever, some kind of
Yeah.
joker or something. It didn't make sense to me. It also it also reminded me of this joke that Charlie Hill, another great native comedian that I worked with on a pilot. We spent a lot of time together. He was on the Richard Pryor show in the 70s, and
Oh, nice.
he came out, and one of his stand-ups is like, comes out on stage, "Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you?" And he's like, "Yeah, a lot of people thought that Native Americans weren't very funny. Like, we didn't tell jokes or anything. We didn't think you guys were that funny either." It's like the sense of humor is a little different for natives, and I think that you can tell what kind of character Connor is because of his past and his history. For him to be so I don't know, a joker or flamboyant, it didn't make sense to me. And the things that he was doing, the actions he was taking within the game, he was real. He was more of a stone cold kind of guy, like real deliberate, precise, and and thrown into this world with Europeans coming over and settling in America, and all these new things happening. His people are changing. There's all these things happening. It doesn't seem right to be such a you know joker. And it contrasted, I think, with the other character that everybody's was used to, Ezio. So it's like you got this Assassin's Creed franchise, and it's Ezio, and you're living with Ezio for 3 games, and lots of DLC, and so now we're used to it. It's like Mario. It's like a Mario game. Now all of a sudden you're going to take Mario out of the game, and you're going to give me this other guy who's completely different. This isn't Assassin's Creed. This is a whole other thing. I think that's the shock that a lot of those naysayers or those people who didn't like Honor or his personality. That's the way he was written. I can't change the words. I can't change the way he's written. It's written like that. So you have to do justice to that, and do justice to what the writers intended. And there's a reason why he was different than Ezio, because we've had 3 games with Ezio, so we need to change it up a little bit. And I
mean,
think now is. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we had a question in the very beginning that was like, do you think he could have found love? You know, like you don't ask a crazy jovial character that question, right?
No, he's got many lovers, probably. You know, so yeah, I think I'm glad the way it came out, and
Yeah.
when people have a really big reaction to it, it's good. Like if someone says, "Nah, it was all right," then I'd rather have I hated it or I really loved it, as opposed to, it was all right. You know, having extreme reactions is better. It's better because at least I caused them an emotion. I caused them to feel something, and I'd rather have that. I've had both sides of the spectrum. People have told me that the character saved their life. They had nothing. They were feeling depressed and, you know, hurting themselves, etc., and saying my performance brought them out of that and gave them something. And then the other flip side of the coin, I get messages from people is that you ruined it. It's the worst thing ever, and it was terrible. And you know, you can't really pay attention to either too much. You know, you can't let it get into your head. You just have to do the job and move on.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. And like you said, like those were the words that were written and you found your path in playing that character and it's what they wanted. We had Ryan Colt Levi on the show a while back, and he was talking about doing auditions and whatnot. And he said that like no matter how many times he did an audition or sent something in, that if he didn't get selected, the way to look at it was it's not because I did a bad job or that they didn't like my performance. It's that I wasn't what they were looking for the character that I was auditioning for. And like you were saying, you know, you get a page of dialogue,
Right.
you know, maybe a couple different scenes that are just like, you know, a sentence, couple sentences, a paragraph, whatever. And you have to build what you can out of that. And it doesn't mean that you're giving a bad or you know, a terrible audition. It just means that maybe your audition wasn't what that person was looking for that character.
Right.
And so, like you said, that's what they were looking for that character. And I personally loved it. So,
Great. Yeah, no, you know, the other thing is when you that's the great thing about acting is when you're playing a character, you know, especially if you didn't write it. So it's like, well, I didn't write it, you know. I didn't that's what he wanted. You know, that's what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to do what the writer wants and what the director wants and what the producer wants. It's their project, they're writing it, they're paying me. My job is to give them what they want. And then later I can go, you know, well, that wasn't me. They wrote that. I wouldn't have done it like that if I was going to write it, you know, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's different if you're playing music and you write your own song. That's you up there.
Yeah.
If they say they don't like your song, it's definitely more personal because that came from my heart. It came from my soul. Those are my words. Those are my poetry. But as a character, you didn't like it. Well, I didn't write it, so whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
That probably
Don't
actually
take
leads
it personal.
nicely into Donnie's question here, who just says, on your time with Connor in AC3, what's one adjustment you made to the character that you're glad you made, if any?
I took out a lot of the contractions in the writing. They had a lot of can't, don't, should, shouldn't. It sounded to me too like contemporary, like the way he was written. So I changed a few of the way of the sentence structure. I would just take the contractions out. I do not like this, or I do not know the way, or you know, because he's not a English speaker. That's not his first language. So I figured I wanted to sound like somebody who's learned the language but is trying to speak it properly, trying to speak it the correct way, and that would include less of a informal way of speaking with all the contractions. I also wanted to portray the way he walks, the way he moves. A lot can be said with your body language. And I think he's kind of that kind of character, you know. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of times those guys tried to touch me on the shoulder or, you know, try to get friendly with me on the set. And I just kind of like whenever they touch me on the shoulder, I'm gonna look at their hand like that hand off me, or I'm gonna cut it off. Like just have that feeling about him that he's so like at any moment, if he wanted, he could just kill everybody that's around him. So that danger had to be there. That kind of I don't know predator kind of feeling. Like this guy is, you don't mess around with him, and I wanted to portray that through the body language. And those are the two things that I kind of worked into the script and into the performance.
You definitely succeeded there. That was awesome. Another quick follow-up from Donnie is just saying here, and would you ever consider playing Connor again? He says, big if I know, if they ever got a sequel. And personally, I'd love to see something else in that setting with those characters. It'd be amazing.
I think it would be great, and especially now. I mean, there's a lot more attention to natives in mainstream media, and it's growing. It keeps growing. So I definitely think there's a spot for it, and I think it would be very, very cool if they asked me to do it again, and I totally would. I enjoyed the character. I enjoyed working on it, and I think I'm very happy with how Ubisoft handles the culture and the details. So definitely, yes.
It's such a cool world and setting, and the characters are so. I mean, Liberation, AC3. I think it's just top tier in world building and character development. It's such cool. I hope they revisit it and go back there someday.
Have any of you guys finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla?
No,
not finished, but about 3/4 through, I think.
I got really far, but I know what the ending is because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to finish it, so I read the rest of it.
Ending is.
I'm still stuck on Syndicate, so
Nice.
I'm slowly working through them.
So, minor spoilers here for Valhalla. Close your ears if you don't want to hear
Spoiler
this.
warning up here.
You're never going to play it, Ben.
So, you start off in Norway. Eventually, you make your way to England, and there's a world map. You can pick which one you want to go to. But at a certain point in the game, you get a message from somebody from this place called Vinland. And I'm like, oh, it's Finland, but with a V. Turns out it's America. So you actually travel to America, and it's East Coast. I think it's supposed to be the same area, Eastern Seaboard, Philadelphia, DC, that general area, where you do meet, remember correctly, I think it is the same tribe. And there's
wow.
Yeah, I was like blown away when I first saw them. I'm like, okay, this is straight up America. I think this is the same exact tribe from.
It's not Vin Diesel
Assassin's
Land?
Creed 3. No, it's not Vin Diesel Land. But it's like this whole like side mission section of the game. It's like it's pretty short.
But so you actually go there?
Yeah, you actually go there, and there's like, dude, it's really good. I was blown away by that they kind of revisited that. Maybe we really want to go back to Assassin's Creed 3. It's been too long since I played that.
I was about to say, like, that kind of makes me want to start playing up until I get to that point now.
Dude,
yeah,
it's not even that far into the game either. Like, it's maybe about 2/3 of the way in, I think. And
I mean, depending on how you play it, though, that's a lot of hours.
But like,
I'm like 80 hours in.
God, dude,
like, I'm not there.
Game. Oh God.
You're in what, second sequence, 80 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
That's me.
I just like exploring.
Yeah,
exactly.
I beat like the main story and like all this other stuff, and I'm like, oh, I want to 100% this game. I really enjoy it, and every time I open up the map, it's just littered with dots of just treasures and side missions, and I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, I can't.
And quit your job and just play it full time.
Yeah, you gotta have it at this point.
Modern Assassin's Creed games, that is 100% the truth.
Oh, Ubisoft games in general now do that with all.
You're not wrong.
I love them, but my God.
No, I just couldn't keep up, man. It was after the third one, and then Unity came out, and every year there was a new one. I just couldn't keep up. There's just too many games. I wanted to, but like they're releasing Valhalla, they're probably got another one coming up. It's like I just feel swamped. Not to mention I have all these other games that I want to play. The problem is they just come out with too many good games. There's just not enough time in the day for me to conquer all of these games.
Tell me
And
about
it's
it. Oh my
honestly
God.
in 2021, it's not even just games. It's movies, it's YouTube, it's Twitch.
Yeah.
It's like there's so
Netflix,
much.
Disney Plus, HBO
Yeah.
Max, Paramount Plus. It's just like
Put some
everybody.
sweatpants on and get on the couch and never leave.
Exactly.
Deliveries.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
What a time to be alive.
So
though,
no,
right?
what kind of things do you do to relax? Obviously, if you've had a big job on a big project, you come home. What do you do on one? What sort of things do you enjoy?
Like, well, right now I'm living in Montana. I moved back in 2016. So I'm in the summer times. I like to go camping. I like to, go hiking, go outdoors. It's the most beautiful place to live in the summertime. Wintertime, it's freezing, it's cold. But there's about 4 months out of the year that it is just absolutely perfect. So I like to do a lot of outdoor activities. See what else was it? Oh yeah, and then in the summertime there's like crow fair, native relay, a lot of different stuff that my tribe does. So I'm definitely into that. This last year I have been indoors in quarantine. Um, just until recently I got my vaccinations completed. So now
Awesome.
I'm able to go out a little bit more and feel a little bit more safe about it. But this last year, I mean, it was gaming, voiceover work, remote like auditions, and get on my mountain bike and go ride, and I can repeat, rinse and repeat, But now that things are opening up, I've been getting out and rehearsing and playing more music, and that's what I really like to do is to play music. Something about it is I don't know, kind of a zen thing. You can really let yourself get lost in there, and it's got a different feeling than acting. It's personal, I suppose. So yeah, and I love sports. I love watching UFC, that kind of stuff. So big into that.
Awesome.
And I do also play Magic the Gathering. I'm a big nerd. Yep.
Nerd alert. Nerd alert.
Hey now. I don't want to hear anything negative.
I got a
about
Pokemon
Magic,
comforter on my
okay?
bed, bro. Chill, okay?
No, I won't chill.
Dude,
Played
I've got-
Magic when I was a little kid, man. Like 12 or 13, I started, and I put it down for a long time, and then came back to Montana, and one of my childhood friends was living here as well, and he had just lost his mom, and so I went over there to see how he's doing and hang out with him, and he dug out the Magic cards, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen this since I was little, and so we got the table out and we started playing, and had a drink, had a beer, and it just really got me back into it. So I've been playing a lot. There's an MTG Arena PC version of it, so I've been doing a lot of that as well.
I believe the iOS version of that just dropped too.
Yeah, you can do it on your phone now.
I downloaded it and I haven't started it yet because I know as soon as I open it, I'm gonna be gone for however long.
He's gonna have to take a break from Simply Sassy.
I'm just gonna have to take a break from the world as
Go up
I
into the hills with a Wi-Fi connection and be gone for a few months.
Magic's
Yeah,
something
you
I
have
was
to
missed out on.
build your collection, man. So that might take a while on there, or you could buy it, but it's free to play.
It was always like I never got into Magic because it was always like the more complicated one. So it's like everybody kind of like started out with Pokemon cards, and then if you really liked Pokemon stuff, you moved up to Yu-Gi-Oh. And then it's like if you were super hardcore, you got into Magic, and I never got past the
Pokemon,
Yu-Gi-Oh
those gateway
phase.
cards, Sketch.
So
I'm not gonna
Let's
lie.
get
I
like
actually feel like Pokemon is a little more complicated
it is
than
now.
Magic at the
Back in
same
like
time.
2003, it wasn't as
And,
bad because it was still a limited amount of Pokemon. Now it's like fucking
Sure.
10,000 Pokemon.
Trashmon and
It's like trying to remember
Shoot,
the evolutions and all that stuff. Like versus, can I
So
just
bad.
tap my mana and attack now, please?
Right?
I'm sitting there, and there's like all these other guys playing Pokemon, and this older Magic guy comes in. He's 40, 45, and he looks at the Yu-Gi-Oh players and he goes, why don't you guys come over here and play an adult game? Play a real game. Dude, this is for 13 plus. What are you talking about?
Oh man. Can't we all just be gamers and get along, please?
Oh man.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
If you want more on video game gatekeeping, go watch the previous episode of the show. I cover that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
more about Star Wars gatekeeping, but
Yeah,
There
it's about
there was a Star
gatekeeping
Wars
in
game
general.
too, man. I played that before it petered out. Was it CCG Star Wars?
Oh, cool.
you ever get into like the tabletop stuff at all?
D&D? No, I never got into that. You know what's fun? The shop that I play at has a bunch of different tables for all sorts of games, and I was in there listening to them do D&D, and I was like, damn, this is like acting. Like it's kind of like a little scene over there. They're taking on characters and stuff. That's really cool. So I imagine I'd probably like it because it's basically acting with friends.
Have you ever
I got out of it.
Have you ever checked out Critical Role? That's probably like the most popular kind of D&D thing.
Mm.
It's
so
a show. It's basically like it is a I can't even think of the word I'm
it's
trying to think of right
it's
now.
a bunch of voice actors from like, you know, the scene that all get together and play D&D, and it's called Critical Role. It's got like Matt Mercer and a bunch of people that I'm like blanking on names, of course, at
Laura
this very
Bailey,
moment.
Travis
Yeah,
Walton,
Laura
yeah.
Bailey. And they get together and they play D&D, and they basically create characters and they play for a set amount of time every week, and it's really interesting.
I think I've heard of that. There's like a bunch of famous actors that really that
Like,
actually
and it's
play D&D.
It is full acted too. Like these people are professionals at
I
this.
think
So
Vin Diesel played at one point, right?
they've had Vin Diesel,
yeah.
they've had Joe Manganiello on there. Like they've had a ton of people. It's
That's
insane.
so cool.
I wouldn't mind getting involved with that. I just don't have very many D&D friends. All the friends I have here are Magic friends, so I guess I have to break into that crowd.
Speaking of voice actors, Kumail has another question where he asks, the anime scene in the West seems to be growing rapidly. Is voice acting in anime something you think about doing? Or something that you've auditioned for?
Let's see. In anime, so I did try out for a bunch of animated series and stuff. Probably right around 2015, after Assassin's Creed came out, I got approached by a voiceover agent in Hollywood, and I went for a few roles, and it's interesting to me. I also felt like there was just a set group of people, a group of actors that were already like in his stable or whatever. So because I kept seeing the same people in the audition room. So I'm like, well, there seems to be this kind of established group of voice actors that they just turn to. And my training isn't really in voice acting. I never really trained it or learned how, went and took classes from someone. Mostly the root of everything that I've done comes from theater. So I'm interested in it. I prefer to get on stage and do acting in person on camera. Something about the behavior and the way that characters move and talk and all of that together, and also interacting with other actors is something that I don't get when I get into a vocal booth and I'm doing voiceover work. Like I just did a game called The Hunter, Call of the Wild, The Hunter. It's like a hunting game or something. And I enjoyed it, but like I said, there was really no interacting with another actor. And that's what's really cool about acting is the bouncing back and forth with other artists. But I'm not opposed to it. If somebody wanted me to do cartoon characters or anime characters, I would definitely, take a look at the script, as long as it's something that's cool. I mean, I love anime. I watch Ghost in the Shell. I love Kira. I like that older kind of style. I'm a little too old for the new stuff.
Do you love
today.
yelling? Do you love yelling?
I love yelling.
Oh, you'll fit right in nicely.
I can tell we're in a fairly similar age bracket because we have a lot of similar tastes in things, like as far as magic and the anime that you just mentioned. Um, so that's pretty funny.
Yeah, Akira has to be my favorite.
Nice.
It's just so well done, and Ghost in the Shell.
How do you feel about the long talked about American at a Hollywood adaptation of Akira with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Oof, I don't know about that, guys.
Has it still got Tiger attached?
I don't know, man. It's hard for me to think. Like I watched Ghost in the Shell. I thought it was, I'll watch it because I love it, but I think it could have maybe been a little bit better. I don't know. Akira is very weird too, especially like the second half. It gets a little bizarre what happens in there, and I would like to see somebody like David Cronenberg make that movie or something. Somebody just really weird, because I don't think it's the type of movie that is like a popular type of a movie. I don't think it'll appeal to everybody because of the content, and would love to see a live action version. Just don't know if they're going to do it. I just don't know if it's going to be as good as that anime. I just don't think it will. It's kind of the same thing, books being made into movie. Usually the book is better. I think only Kubrick can really make the movie better than the book. Like Clockwork Orange, I thought that was a better movie than the book. The Shining, I thought that was a better movie than the book. It's very hard to do that. And it's also like video games and turning them into movies. That usually doesn't really work out. Like the Resident Evil series movies, I wasn't really a big fan of those. The Super Mario movie was terrible,
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that, So if they make an Akira live action movie, they better be prepared to satisfy all of the appetites from the fans of that movie, because there's a lot of them out there, and they are paying attention.
Okay, so I had to do a little bit of research just because we decided to start talking about it. But it looks like the Akira adaptation is on hold indefinitely. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen. We went from in April of 2019 for it getting a release date of May 21st, 2021. Obviously, that was never going to happen regardless because of COVID and everything. But then it starts talking about Taika Waititi's fourth Thor movie has put Akira's development on hold indefinitely. So I guess we don't have to worry about that anymore.
I'll watch it. I'll definitely watch it. But I don't really want to hype myself up for it, because I'm always let down when I always go, oh, this is going to be the best. It's going to be a great movie. It's coming out as my favorite thing. And then I say, oh, no, not very good. So I kind of want to keep my expectations low, so that way I'm pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Smart. It's very smart.
Now, we always have one question that we ask every guest, but before we get to that, just a quick question for you, because before the show, you mentioned that you're in this movie called Slaughter Raw, which is actually your very first movie, which you mentioned obviously working with Ryan Gosling. So I want to hear a little bit more about, this is your first movie that you're starring in, or that you're in. Obviously working with Ryan Gosling, and I'm looking up the cast here. It's incredible. You've got like Amy Adams. It's just, what was this experience like for you, this being your first big film? What was that like?
It was, man, it was such a blessing. Remember, I was working on stage, and I was doing in high school speech and debate, which I did the speech part of it, which is basically memorizing monologues. And so I was already getting really heavy into acting. And my uncle-in-law on my dad's side was an actor, brilliant stage actor and director. And so I asked him about getting an agent. He had an agent in Montana here, and so he hooked me up with his agent, and right away I got a call to do an audition, and I just got it. It was weird. I'd never done an audition before, and it was my first audition, and I nailed it, and they wanted me to to work on it. And so I was only 17, so I needed to have a supervision, a parent along with me, and nobody could do it except for my granddad. So I took my grandpa with me, and we went to Blackfeet territory, which is like northern Montana, and it was very cold, and nobody really knew who Ryan Gosling was at that time, or I didn't know who he was. The guy that I was really excited about working with was David Morse, because I've seen him in a lot of things, The Rock and so on. So I was really excited to meet him, and I was like, this Ryan Gosling guy, he looks like a young kid, and I don't know, he's probably not going to do anything, So like, okay, and then but everybody's really nice, and I did all my lines in Blackfeet, or a majority of them were in Blackfeet, and we had one night where it was like a night scene, and David Morse is coming out of the locker room, and we're all kind of chatting in front, and it was so cold. My feet were frozen. We keep having to do it over and over again. And they got me out there in these little Converse All-Stars, canvas shoes, and it's like snow on the ground. It's freezing. But I was just having a blast because I was working. I was on camera. It was being filmed with 35 millimeter film, which is really important to me. I love working on 35 millimeter. I think it's just a great medium. And I knew all my lines. I was ready. Like, I was so just excited to be a part of it and to work on something like that. And, it was one of the best weeks of my life. And after that was over, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like, I was like, I can just drop out of school right now and just start acting, because I don't need any of this. I just want to be an actor. And I carried that for a while until later on it started to become a job. And that's when I kind of looked to music to help me feel that energy again, that excitement again. Because going down to LA after that and working in a lot of different things, it definitely became a job. And then I kind of was like, I don't want to do this, or this and that, and whatnot. But anyway, I hope I answered your question.
No, definitely. That's awesome.
Just to piggyback real quick, have you ever worked on a film score, or would you ever want to work on a film score? Like, if you got the chance?
Yes, I actually have done two. I've done two films, score for two. I wrote a song for one, and then the other did basically a full score with a producer friend of mine who also worked on my music albums, Jeffrey Scott Kraft. And it was interesting. The problem with the film score I did is that they said, we need music for like a desert type of movie, like desert movie. I'm like, okay, well, that's really specific. Can I get a script? No, wait, we haven't finished the script yet. We're still working on it. All right, so time passed, and then they finally finished the script and the movie, but they're like, "No, we can't show it to you yet. But can you make some music for it?" So, all right. So we made about, I don't know, 90 minutes worth of music or something, and they used it. So I still haven't seen the movie though. I never got a copy of it, but I'd love to do more scoring. It's not really what I'm trained in, though. I'm more of a singer-songwriter. I'm not really into composing music. I more like to do. I write on my acoustic guitar, and then I like to try and bridge that off and make some psychedelic, funky, hardcore blues, kind of late '60s, early '70s kind of a feel.
Yeah, I just imagined that like they are obviously two very different mediums and ways of thinking about music and whatnot. But at the same time, I was just intrigued by the idea of you having your foot in the door with film and music, if it just ever overlapped, and it's cool to hear that it has.
If you look up on IMDb on my name, you'll see. When you push all filmography, I think there is a section there for composing. You'll be able to see what I've done composing wise on that website. Yeah, it's nice. Something I'm interested in. I'd rather actually just have some of the songs I wrote be used in films, as opposed to trying to compose a whole score, because that's really difficult.
All right, sorry, Ben. Didn't mean to interrupt your secondary question. I just had to know.
Good. No, I'm loving it.
And thank you, Noah.
So the question that we ask everyone, are you familiar with someone by the name of Greg Miller?
It sounds familiar. Who's that?
So he used to work at IGN. He works at Kind of Funny at the moment. He's kind of a friend of the show, but he's someone that can be everywhere at once. So he's like hosting, for example, like EA Play. He's like on all sorts of different shows. He's texting and tweeting somehow at the same time. We don't know how he does it. So we just theorize every week as to how this particular person is able to somehow be in multiple places at once. So just wondered if you might have sort of a theory as to how someone might be able to do that. So any sort of fun theories? We've had different species, we've had clones, we've had androids, we've had all sorts of interesting sort of theories. But I'd love to know what you think and how you think, what you think this person might be able to do, what they can do. Yeah.
I think probably the simplest thing would be multiple people are working in cahoots. Conspiracy.
We haven't had working in cahoots before. That's a great one. It's like they got extra agents running around doing work for them, you know?
It's got to be. I mean, I don't know the alien thing. I don't know about that. I tend to go with the simplest explanation is usually the right one. And if somebody's in a couple different places at once, oh, that's not possible. He's got to be working with someone behind the scenes, behind the curtain. That's my final answer.
That's amazing. That's great. Oh, good. And are there any other community questions or questions that Phil or Gage, you've got?
Yeah, we've got looks like 2 more main ones left. Of course, they are again back to Assassin's Creed.
What's this Assassin's Creed you guys keep talking about?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure myself, but people keep talking about it apparently.
Okay, shoot.
Kind of depressing, but after the events of Assassin's Creed 3, do you think Connor... No, wait, what? Oh, this was the one that we said was similar earlier, but so I'll go ahead and read it out. Okay. Would be able to be happy again the way he is during the homestead missions. He's been through so much. And that's from Thomas Chabot. So we'll just... you kind of answered that one earlier, but
I think definitely he can be happy. It's in the writing, and I mean, like, it's whatever they want it to do. I think what the fans want is for him to be happy and to have a life that isn't full of tragedy, because that's pretty much what all he had throughout the game is just people dying around him and chasing after murderers. So I would hope that he would get the story he deserves and the ending that he deserves. And also in replaying Assassin's Creed 3 for Twitch, for fans that want to watch me play myself in the game, do that weird Inception thing, they definitely enjoy the homestead missions a lot because you get to see a kinder, gentler side of Connor. And I think that's what a lot of people didn't do when they played the game first. And they just rushed through the story and didn't go back and play those homestead missions. And those homestead missions give a more of a balanced feel to the character. You can see him be a little bit more vulnerable in those missions. And I just think that anybody who didn't play those missions only got a part of Connor's personality and story. So, yes, the short answer is yes, he can have a happy ending and probably will.
And then this question comes along the same lines from Eliza at Rotan Hoxunt. And it says, during the homestead mission, the wedding, Miriam ends up having a bit of a wedding fright and runs off, but we never end up getting told how Connor manages to convince Miriam to come back. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I haven't thought about that. Let's see, off the top of my head, I don't know. I think he's just so inexperienced with that whole process. Like, what could he tell her that would be like, listen, marriage has been great for me, you need to do it? Like, nah, he doesn't know anything about it. But I think maybe he understands love, and so maybe something to that effect he could have told her, all you need is love.
And then we have one last question. Has there been how tough has it been during the pandemic as far as things you've needed to adjust for auditioning for roles and going to a set if you've gone to a set since the pandemic, and working with people, what has changed in that respect?
Well, I've done voice. I haven't done any films or theater since this pandemic. So, and I don't, even if I was offered one, I don't think I would have done it last year, because of all the unknowns about this virus and whatnot. I just didn't want to trust it. Also, uh, I didn't want to expose anybody that's around me, any of my family or vulnerable people in my circle. So, I did do one voice at a studio last May, and it was just one engineer in the room, and he was across the room, and I was in my own vocal booth. So I felt okay about that. Um, I since moving up to Montana, I've been doing auditions. I've been recording my own auditions and sending them in. So I'm still getting auditions from LA. I'm just not going into the office and meeting the producers when I do audition. And I think that's something that is important to do. If I could, I would choose to go into the office and meet the producers. Just something about making an impression and being in the room can help you a lot. I've also been doing voice and working for some political stuff and doing some political videos for natives and Western Native voice, talking about getting out and voting and stuff like that. So coming back to Montana, I really been trying to get more in touch with my Apsalaga roots and try to think about ways that I can bring arts and entertainment to the youth of the Apsalaga tribe. So that's where I've been really thinking and putting a lot of my energy this past year is thinking about that, thinking about ways I can do that. I've also gone back to LBHC, Little Bighorn College, and have been learning about Crow culture and Crow language this past year. So I've kind of let the acting settle a little bit and try to concentrate more on my culture, my people, and working on music. And it's actually been really good to kind of unplug from everything and just get into my space in my little studio in my house and write music and I feel kind of let the weight kind of come off and decompress. Living in LA for 15 years is really it took its toll on me, especially the last like 3 years. There's just so much going on down there. There's just so much stimulus, so many noises, so much crash, so much traffic. Like move back to Montana and I feel like my mind can breathe, if that makes sense. Like I feel like a weight was lifted off my shoulders and I walk outside and it's calm. It's not chaotic, there's not helicopters and sirens and 24/7. So I'm a very introverted type of person, a lot of ways. So I kind of, I know it sounds bad, but I didn't really mind having to stay in in my room and just, you know, work on stuff and tinker away. But I am right now. I'm getting antsy to get out. So, and that's what I'm doing. In about 15 minutes, I'm gonna be hitting the road, go down and play some music for some people. So,
Nice.
ready to get out there again.
So, couple questions just to close it out. One for anybody that's aspiring to kind of be in the acting field. Um, what do you think the best resources are for someone is? Do you think it's moving to LA to go shoot your shot, or do you think there's a possibility for people that might be in more remote locations like yourself, if they don't have their foot in the door already? Is there something that they can do to maybe try and play their hand in the industry?
I would say it's very difficult to break into the industry, um, and not being in LA, or New York. I definitely think if you want to be an actor, you need to work hard at it. It's a craft like anything else. It takes a lot of time to cultivate. It's not something that you can just jump into. Granted, there are people who are personality actors who just kind of play themselves in every role. And to me, that is just one facet of acting. It's a personality. The way that I like to create characters and to work in acting is becoming another character, like changing into someone else and having someone not recognize you or having someone think that you're someone you're not. That is really the essence of it, and that takes a while to learn. And I was fortunate enough to have a couple of mentors in my life early on to help me, um, and to cultivate that drive that I had and that love of it. And then going down to LA and getting involved in I did the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for about a semester, and then I got a part in a movie, and so I had to drop out of that school because they wouldn't allow me to do the movie and be in school at the same time. So the experience I prioritized over the schooling. But after I did that film that I Skinwalkers, and so I think it was 2002. After that was done, I went and sought out a acting coach and acting classes. And this is not something I can get a degree in. It was a scene study class, Tuesdays and Thursdays, with Lynette McNeil. And it was, you put up a scene, at least one scene every week. And you have lights and music and you create your own little scene. And it was basically going to the gym for acting. And that is something that really helped me out. So if you're looking to get into it, I would say, and if you want to take it serious, you need to find yourself a mentor or some sort of acting coach to show you and to help you sharpen the tools and to understand what the casting directors are looking for when they call you up, what to do, what not to do when you walk in that room. I think one thing that I was told, just something simple, is don't go in there and start shaking everybody's hands, because you know they shake so many hands per day. They gotta wash their hands all the time. If they engage it, if they want to shake your hand, then yes, go in there, smile, be affable, there's like a whole technique and way of just walking in and talking to these people before you even start acting. There's like a protocol involved. So an acting coach, a casting director coach, can be invaluable because they know all of those things, all of those little rules and little unwritten kind of faux pas and things that you do and you don't do when you start working in the industry. So, and also, if you want to be an actor, you need to get on stage and start doing it. And I would recommend getting involved in theater, because theater actors make really great film actors. And it's the hardest to do, in my opinion. So if you can do theater, you can do it all.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions before I ask the fun question at the end here?
No, I wanted to talk about music, but we're pushing it, so I'll have to save that
It's
one.
It's cool,
Gage.
man.
Gage has actually made an album recently of
Really?
music.
I've done two
So
solo albums in like the electronic chiptunes department, and then
You have a
back in.
SoundCloud or
I
something?
have a Bandcamp. I can have Ben send you the link.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll love
or I
to
guess
listen to
I
it.
can send it to you over Discord. And back in like 2013, I was in a band and we did two EPs and a couple little
Right
tours and
on.
shows and stuff. Playing like
That's awesome.
super heavy like metal stuff that I don't even like to listen to, but it was so much fun to play. So I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Yeah, send some links. I'm always interested in listening to new music.
All right, I'll definitely do that. All right, go ahead with your last question, Phil.
oh,
Go
Ben,
begin.
did you have
Or-
anything?
No, of
No,
course
no,
you
I'm all
didn't.
good. I just wanted to say also shout out for Sons of Anarchy, because I didn't watch all of it, but I definitely watched a couple of seasons and really enjoyed it. And your episode was great as well. So
Oh, that was so much fun. Selling mushrooms and bullets to Ron Perlman was great.
Oh man.
So actually, I'm honestly more interested in the music question that you had, Gage. If you want to go into that, the fun question I was going to ask is, what's your favorite Magic card? So,
Oh,
I feel like
well,
that
I
would be
guess it's
quick
got
if
to
someone knew that one.
be.
okay,
I think it's got to be Necropotence. That's the deck I use that really pisses my friend off. No. I don't know.
nice.
Do you know the card
Yes.
Necropotence? Yeah, it's kind of an unfair card. Just put it that way.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
So, yeah, thank you for joining us today. This was amazing. It's
That's
always
been
so
My
awesome.
much
pleasure,
fun.
man. Yeah, my pleasure, man. Keep in touch. We'll get some games going on. Maybe listen to your music. I'm down.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan.
Awesome.
We'll have a link to everything down in the description, music, Twitch channel, all that stuff. So everybody can just go down there, click it, follow, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. Show some support.
Support your local assassin.
Yes,
Toss a coin to your assassin.
I love that.
And find Charles Lee for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Noah, for joining us today. It's been a huge pleasure to have you on the show, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good one.